Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Matthew McConaughey.
Brad Gilmore.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The one and only Sydney Sweeney joins us. Sydney, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Tom Hanks and Robin Wright in my favorite movie of the year. Guys, thanks so much for joining the show.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Jessica Alba and Lizzie Mathis. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Kevin Costner joins us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
One of my all-time favorites, Vince Vaughn, joins us right now. Vince, thanks, man.
Oh, great to be with you, Brad, and great to be talking to Houston. Good morning to you.
We got Owen Wilson. We got Judy Greer. Thanks for joining the show, guys.
Thank you.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
We got Anna Sawai joining the show. Anna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Brad.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What looking at talking me funny, lad.
Megan Trainor.
Thank you so much, Brad. You're awesome.
Paris Hilton, the infinite icon herself, is on the show. Paris, love the film.
Thank you. I'm so proud of it.
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat.
Well, joining me right now on the show is an accomplished author who we are talking about her brand new book called Blue Beach, and she's joining me right now to talk all about it and her incredible career. Miss Karyn Parsons. Karyn, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, congratulations on everything you're doing in the literary world. You've
you.
gotten the attention of young people, of people of all ages, of presidents. This must be quite the kind of second part of your career, to be doing all this. This has to be so great.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's definitely it feels like new horizons kind of thing. I spent so much of my life acting, wanting to act since I was really little. So to kind of be stepping into something so entirely new for me. I love writing and I'm a big reader, but to be doing this, it's interesting. I love it.
Well, writing is its own beast, right?
Yeah.
I think that the one of the most intimidating things you can look at is the blank page when you're trying to put together the stories and
Yep.
figure out and do the research and all that comes with doing a book. And it's a different muscle than acting, right? You're still storytelling, but
Yep.
it's coming from your mind and from your fingers to the keyboard or to the paper. When did you
Yeah.
first start kind of playing around with writing?
Well, I guess my friends, when I started really writing, I had my friends, and I actually, when my first book was coming out, I had a couple of friends say, "But you've always been writing," which was funny to me because I didn't feel like that. But after The Fresh Prince ended, a friend of mine encouraged me to take a writing course with an acting teacher at a city college, Santa Monica City College. And she pushed and pushed. And she's like, "You have to take with him. He's great. And his name is Jim Crusoe, by the way. I might as well say his name. And so I said, "Okay, I'll go." And I went to the class, and it just like everything just shifted in me. He's a great instructor, but I loved the things we were reading. I loved the challenges and the exercises that he gave us. I was storytelling, but I was creating characters, but I was creating all of the characters, and I was being able to do this kind of deep dive and work from a place that I hadn't before. But I think in a lot of ways, it also does scratch the itch that acting did for me. Even though like you said, it's a different muscle, and it was just very exciting and new and fresh, but an area that was something that always appealed to me.
Well, you mentioned like creating all the characters and being able to do that as an actor or actress. Your focus obviously on, what are your sides? What are your lines?
Yes.
Where are you at in the story? How do you fit in? So was it an interesting kind of transition to go from thinking just about what your character was doing to now I have to juggle all these characters and make sure all the stories are aligning as they need to be?
I don't know. It was something I just responded to right away.
Sure.
But I think also being a viewer, I'm such an avid film and television watcher. I really am always watching something new, and because of my relationship to that, to the setting, to all of the different characters, how they interact, what's true and what doesn't, what feels forced. I mean, all of these kind of things, as well as being behind the scenes. I think all of those things informed me going in, into writing. I think that kind of being a story, a lover of stories. And I've been told the stories that I write are very visual, and I think a lot of that comes from, I think of it that way. I see it that way.
You have the theater of the mind going as you're trying to kind of put the story together, right?
In words, yeah, fine, yeah.
What I find interesting too is, to me, like I've last year I actually wrote a children's book for the first time. I got it
Oh,
published.
wow.
Yes, yes. Thank
Congratulations.
you very much. I was very, very thrilled about it. But it was a personal story about the relationships with my grandmother that I had. But when I was thinking about, writing this story for young people, it was a whole different prism you have to look
Yes.
through, because I think our adult minds think of things so logically. And there's this quote I love that says, "Take me away to where I had a kid's innocence, because in a sense, that's what I've been missing ever since." Right? And
Yeah.
looking at it through that prism of when,
Yes.
life wasn't so about zeros and ones and wasn't so black and white, where we just kind of made it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting you say that, because I think there is this gift in writing for kids, for young people, of what you just said. It takes you back to that place in yourself. That place in yourself is still there. And we're reunited with it when we're writing for children, when we're thinking about them, when we're thinking through how they're meeting this, or a protagonist that's a young protagonist and doing it through their eyes. That is a gift to be given that. And I feel like I've definitely received that.
Well, and then, but did you ever find, like, was that another thing, like you said, when you're talking about all the characters kind of came naturally to you? Was that also a muscle that you didn't have to, work out too much? Like it was more of a natural thing to think about through the mindset of a young person?
Um, that's a mixed one, because when I first was writing, my nonprofit Sweet Blackberry, which I hopefully get a chance to talk about in a
Yeah,
minute, but
for
with
sure.
Sweet Blackberry, with the first story I told with Sweet Blackberry, I remember that was the first children's project. It was an animated film. It didn't end up making it a book, but it's an animated film, and I was writing that. And I do remember thinking, because it's the story, it was the impetus for me starting the organization, was a story about an enslaved man, Henry Box Brown, who literally mailed himself to his freedom in a box. And I had wanted for years to tell this story, and now I was finally going to tell it. And I sat down to write it, and I thought, immediately, I just kind of went, whoa, I never thought about, how do you tell children about slavery?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
all of a sudden it landed on me that this isn't as simple as I've been thinking. And I really wrestled with it for a while, and I finally found my way in. But at first it was a difficult thing, because I was when I started thinking of these young people and these fresh, very innocent minds, and that I had to think differently. So in the beginning, yes, like in that situation for sure. And then I think, and that was also when I just had my daughter and she was a baby. But as time went on, I have, two children who are now taller than I am. But I have these, so I watched them, and I saw how they took in, well, my daughter in particular, about what she loved to read, what she responded to, what got her excited. And so when I write certain things, I definitely, like when I write middle grade fiction, I think when I'm thinking about writing to somebody, I'm often writing to the young her, you know. Um, and so that's as I've come to have those relationships with those young people so intimately, so close, that I have a better understanding than when I first set out, I think.
Well, and again, too, not only to think about it through their mind and writing for her or to them, but
Mhm.
do you find, like, I guess a better question would be, like, when you get on something, let's say like Blue Beach,
Yeah.
what's step number one? Am I kind of doing some research of the time period and then I jump into it, or I start kind of formulating the character or the arc? I mean, where do you start with it?
Well, I think it's different with different, or for me so far, it's been different with different things. I will
Sure.
say on that one, that was an interesting journey. For the first time, I knew the setting was primary character for me. I heard about Bruce's Beach, a real beach in Manhattan Beach, California, that had been an all-black beach in the early 1900s, and then the city wrestled it away from them, gave them very little money, said, we need it, we need to make a park here. And they gave them some fraction of what the property was valued at. And it was just a tragic story. Eventually, the family did get it back, but then they had to sell it. Anyway, I knew about the story, and I was really interested in going deeper into it and seeing about the perseverance and the courage it would take at a time like that to really push through to just fight for a space for Black people to be able to enjoy the ocean. I grew up in Santa Monica at the beach, just completely taking it for granted.
Right.
And so I knew going in that was the setting, that was where I wanted this to take place. Then I had to find kind of what happens here. So it kind of went in that order, and then the characters came. But that was first. But the thing that I did do that was particularly interesting is that I wrote on index cards, like, okay, this happens, and then this person shows up, and then I started just writing as things were happening, and I started tacking them up on the wall, and then finding order for them. And next thing you know, I had kind of a very loose first, second, third act, kind of just rough. And I knew all along I wanted to keep it open, but I had basically a framework, an outline that I was working within, and I've never done that before, and it was really fun.
Well, that's so fascinating that you bring that up, because one of my favorite movies of all time is Back to the Future. And when I listened to Robert Zemeckis, who's the director, and Bob Gale, when they talked about the writing process, they said just that they did it on index cards, and they would put it on the bulletin board and kind of rearrange. Like, for instance, I guess in your story, if Marty McFly is going to play the guitar, we have to establish that he's into rock and roll, and you kind of figure it out that way.
Exactly. No, it's exactly true. I had heard people talk about the index cards thing before, but I had never done it. And I remember I even asked, not the index cards, but about outlining. I asked the author Kwame Alexander. He was always working on something, and I said, "Do you ever outline? I mean, is that how you work?" And he had just worked with James Patterson, who's incredibly prolific. I mean, I thought Kwame was, but they worked together on something, and he said James Patterson outlines everything. And I said, "Did you guys do it when you worked together?" He said, "Yes," and it went so fast. And so I was very curious. But what you said about that example for, Back to the Future is true, because things would come up and you go, oh, then this moves here, or actually this is, and you can just shift and move. And also you can stay free and fluid as you're writing. And if things change up, they come out, or you put it over in a different place. Or if you're looking at the blank page and going, I don't know how to get in here, maybe you go to a different scene. Maybe you pick a different card and just go, let me just start fiddling with this,
Well, because I'm sure you might sometimes have like a really good idea for, maybe the second act. You're like, let me flesh this out, and maybe that'll help inform the first act.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I figure is like, just play around. Just play around. If you can keep it loose, and those cards just keep me remembering, because otherwise, thoughts are all over the place.
Well, I mean, but like I said, I've heard of people do that for screenplays, but I've never heard that, for an actual, book of any kind. So that's actually really fascinating. And again, you said everything that you've done, it's kind of been a different process, a different entry point.
Yeah, it's been different with different projects. So there's no telling. I'm not sure. I'd like to try that again, because that actually was, like I said, it was fun. Like sitting down was really fun, because I knew where I was going, or I knew I had some place that it didn't feel as daunting as sometimes it can feel when you sit down and you really have no idea what you're doing.
But when you hear something like, Bruce's Beach, which you were just talking about, 1912, this, all black beach in Manhattan Beach. When you hear that, do you immediately, your mind starts working, you go, okay, I think that there's enough there to kind of formulate this story around? Or is it something like you always kind of keep a log of little things you hear, anecdotes or ideas, and then maybe you're like, oh, you know what? Now I found the entry point to that story?
I think what it is for me is I've been with that is a historical fiction
Sure.
story, and my last two novels, which were for younger reader, middle grade, are also historical fiction. What I've found with it is that I so many things are revealed along the way. I'm doing research on one part of, like I'm writing where they live, and so I want to look at the geography of the area at the time, or I want to look at the reality of what their dwellings looked like, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, poop, something pops up that's a little piece of information about Santa Monica, California at this time that I didn't know. And then that's kind of like a hotel, and it's like, oh, what an interesting history it had. And it's like, oh, well, maybe the father works there. And then if you start to investigate the place further, you start to find out more information. And if you start to find out about, say, celebrities that frequented the place or at clubs nearby, all of a sudden that starts to find its way into, your stories. It's for me, that's one of the things that's been really fun. Like when I did my first book, How High the Moon, I learned so much along the way for
Sure.
somebody who hated history growing up. Now everything I do is history. Um, but yeah, for instance, in How High the Moon, as I was writing and researching, I started learning about ship fitters during the war and these women like Rosie the Riveter who
Sure.
were out there building ships, and realizing that then that became some work that her mother was doing. And then, you just start to, all of a sudden it started to have a little bit more, it had a little bit more in the story than I had anticipated. I mean, I didn't anticipate it at all, but it had a lot more in the story than I expected. But then things can't come from it. And the same with an artist that I discovered that lived in the Roxbury area of Massachusetts, Boston. Just as I'm going, and you're kind of this, it's like this little excavations along the way that give more definition to the story, that sometimes become more intricately involved in the storyline and than I expected. They're just like little gifts along the way. It's great. I love it. I love it. It's so fun.
Well, I mean, because just listening to you right now, like the research almost seems like your favorite part now.
Yes, because I'm not thinking of it that way. I think you're
Yeah.
constantly going, oh, well, like, oh, orange juice. They're having orange juice. And in 1945, was there orange juice? Where and was it in a bottle or a can? Because these are real questions,
Yeah.
And so as you start to do some of this research, you start to find other things start popping up about what a popular candy was at the time. And then the next thing you know, there's this whole thing where kids are eating candy, and then maybe somebody's sharing the Mary Janes and somebody else won't give, whatever it is. It just starts rounding things out. And every now and then they become more integral to the plot maybe than you expected. And that's really great when that happens.
Well, but the details bring an authenticity, and the authenticity brings a connection, right?
Yes,
People can feel the
yes.
authenticness. They connect to that story more.
Exactly. And it's great if you can also, like these are younger people that are reading this, right? I mean, even if it were adults, it's great to be able to, at the same time, without even trying so much, educate people, right? Or to plant seeds in people about real things. So they're going, oh, I didn't know about that, or I want to look into that, or is that true? Whatever. That's also another added little perk.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, and to me, that's what a great story does. Is like when the book ends, or when the movie ends, or when the show ends, you want to know more about it, and you do
Yeah,
your own research. I think the great projects do that. But
that's
let me
true.
ask you this: like, as an author, it's validating in general when anybody picks up your book, reads it, resonates with it, and sends those kind regards. But when you have like a video of a president of the United States floating around, reading, flying free, and it goes viral. I don't know if that's the ultimate invalidation because it's President Obama, and obviously his legacy speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And he's one of the great orators too of all time, one of the great speech writers. So he knows good writing when he sees
Yeah,
it.
and writer, yes, and
Yeah.
he's a great writer. I mean, his books are
Oh, his
great.
books were incredible. Yeah. I mean, even before he was president, the book
Right.
about his father, and then his
Yes.
subsequent writing that he's done. Michelle as well is a
Hmm.
fantastic writer. But when you see something like that, what does that do for you? Is it a validating moment? Is it a what the hell just happened moment? Is
It's
this
a
real
what the
life?
hell? It's a what the hell? What the hell just happened? And you're like floating. I actually had a friend just text me today and say, just remind me. She just out of the blue. She's like, I was just thinking about how President Obama read your book of all the books. That is so incredible. She just thought of it and just sent that to me today. Because it was a tremendous honor. Um, I mean, what do I say? It was a cloud nine for sure. You know, that's a pretty much one of those lifetime highs. You're like, that happened.
I always have it. You know, it's with you forever.
Yeah,
Um,
that was cool.
you're mentioning Sweet Blackberry. If you want to talk more about what kind of work that you're doing with that, and kind of some of the inspirations behind it.
Well, Sweet Blackberry is my nonprofit organization. Our mission is to bring little known stories of Black achievement to kids. These are important stories for all of us. These are American history stories,
Thanks.
but they're stories about people that we don't often hear about. They're not just the standard, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King. There's certain people that we all hear about, but these are stories that risk being lost. Incredible, fascinating stories of courage and perseverance and determination. And I think they help show children what they are capable of, and that challenges are often opportunities to do great things. I've made short animated films. I think we've done 4 short animated films about real people in history with great narrators. I've been fortunate. I've had Alfre Woodard, Queen Latifah, Chris Rock, and Lawrence Fishburne all be narrators of these projects. I've been very lucky. And then we've had a couple of our books published about Bessie Coleman, which is what President Obama read, Flying
Right.
Free, the best Bessie Coleman story, and Saving the Day, how Garrett Morgan's Saving the Day, Garrett Morgan's something of the traffic signal. I blanked out on my own
You
title.
got
It's
you got a lot of
long.
stuff going on. Okay.
It's a lot, but it's called Saving the Day, and it's about the inventor Garrett Morgan and his contribution of the traffic signal. He also contributed the gas mask and other things that we just everyday items. A remarkable man. But these are just really great people and very inspiring stories. My mother was a librarian, and so I spent a lot of time in the library. And then as an adult, she was still a librarian, and she called me and told me the story of Henry Box Brown, who I mentioned earlier, an enslaved man who literally mailed himself in a box to his freedom across state lines, which I just thought was such an incredible story. And that's why she told me, because she'd never heard it, but no one I told her had heard it before. So I really was determined to get that story out to children. And that would be the first story that would start my organization, Sweet Blackberry.
Well, I think what you said too is so important for people to remember that Black stories, Black history is American history.
Yeah, these are great. These are Americans doing amazing things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and they need to be amplified to the nines, and we need to be sure that we know about it. I mean, I remember even reading. I saw was it one of those TikTok or something about Madam C.J. Walker, and
Yeah.
which, I mean, it was I was fascinated by her story, and just something
Yeah.
that again in school, obviously you get the hits. You know, you get
Yes.
Martin Luther King, you get Rosa Parks, you get George
Right.
Washington Carver and Frederick
Yes.
Douglass, and some. I mean, obviously they all deserve to have their shine,
Mhm.
but the lesser known stories we need to also be aware of.
Absolutely. And they're all of our stories. They're for all of us to be inspired by. I saw something that had gone viral a couple of years ago, and it was Bessie Coleman. And was it Bessie? Wait, was that one Bessie Coleman? Oh, no, there was Shaka Khan. There was one little girl who did Shaka Khan for Black History Month, little white girl. And and they had like little stands where they all had, they picked somebody who they wanted to profile, and they had to dress up as them. And she was there, and she's like, "Hi, my name is Shaka Khan," and, and she did her whole thing. And I saw another one before with a little girl who's dressed up like an aviator, and she was Bessie Coleman, and she was so proud. And the kids don't care. The kids aren't thinking about the black white thing. They're
Sure.
just like, this is an amazing person. Wow, nobody would teach her how to fly, and she had to go to France to do it. Wow, I want to have that kind of determination. It's so great if we can just give our stories, all of these stories, all this truth of history to children and let them own it. you know. So I love that. I love, like I said, that there are kids out there who they don't care. And I think as adults, we need to stop this, like going, well, that's just for these people, and that's just for these people. These are American heroes, American stories for all of us to learn and recognize what's inside of all of us, what we can do.
And I think that's beautiful. That's what you're doing with Sweet Blackberry. That's what you're doing with books like Blue Beach. Let me ask you this, because I think that this is always It's always an interesting question, right? Especially when I'm talking to a director or an author like yourself, is there an intended, when someone reads Blue Beach, and they close it, they break the spine in it, they go through it all, they close the book, it's over with. Is there an intended reaction that you are seeking for them to have, or is it really up to the individual reader and whatever they take from the story?
I don't think about any of that. I don't. I'm really just. So it's funny even when you're talking about people breaking the spine and reading, I'm like, wow, I love the thought of somebody like closing it and being like, whoo, that was cool. I love that. But I definitely don't think about how it affects. We're so different. We all have our own unique things we bring to something when we crack a book open. I just gave up on a book that was heralded by everyone as so great. And I finally went, I don't like it. It's not for me. Why? Yeah, I have to just kind of accept that, like, I'm forcing it down like castor oil, and I'm like, every day is going by, I could be reading something I like. We all bring something different to our experiences and to the books that we read and the films that we see and the experiences that we have, and so I think people are going to come away with something different. Different things are going to tap them and touch them and affect them. As it is, I've had people bring up different things with Blue Beach that are like, oh, really? Oh, you thought about that? Or it's just funny what resonates with what person. So I have no idea. I definitely don't go. I'm doing my best to be as truthful as I can to the story. And then hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully people will like it and take something away.
Well, you already know that people are going to like it. It's already gotten high praise. Blue Beach, again, you can get it now. And to me, too, I think that all the stories that you've been telling and the conversation that you share with us today, I think it's very important for people to go out and, like you said, do their own research, too, if they're so inspired, to learn more about all of these different stories that you have championed in these last few years. And again, everything that you're doing with Sweet Blackberry, I think is incredible. So Karyn, thank you for your insight too on the writing process. As a writer myself, I'm going to actually implement some of these things that we talked about today. And I do appreciate your time.
Thank you. This has been great. I appreciate it. Keep writing.